Hello, everyone. My name is Brian Giblin, and I'm with NeoSystems. Welcome to our webinar this afternoon, Why Upgrade to Costpoint 7, the Promises and the Perils. Just a quick note on logistics. If you have any questions or comments during the webinar, please use the little box marked questions. We'll attempt to answer your questions at the end of the session. If there are individual questions that we can't quite get to, we'll try to answer them one-on-one. And if we get a lot on a given topic, we might make a little blog entry out of it. But I'm getting ahead of myself. We have a great agenda today. I'll go through some quick introductions. Then we'll get on to the promises of Costpoint 7 with its new enterprise architecture and improved user experience, which will show you that as well. Then we'll share with you some of our insights that we've gained over the last 2 years working with Costpoint 7. From that, we'll talk a little bit about how you can reduce your risks of upgrading, and then what's next. So very quickly, I want to talk a little bit about NeoSystems. I promise I'll try not to make this sound like a commercial. Let me know how I do with that, though. We are a Deltek Premier Partner, and we have roughly 125 employees. Many of them install and run Deltek systems. We've implemented Deltek systems, and they use Deltek systems. We have dozens of accountants who are using Deltek systems every day to do the accounting for clients just like yourself. And what all this brings together is this breadth and depth of experience that, candidly, I don't think anyone else can match. Joining us today, we have Rob Wilson. Rob is a co-founder of NeoSystems and also our CTO. He leads the team that supports the 230 clients that have over 16,000 employees, all running within the NeoSystems infrastructure. He ensures that we are SSAE 16 compliant, ITAR compliant, PCI DSS compliant. He makes sure that we and all of our clients stay compliant. Before founding NeoSystems, Rob was with AOL, where he built and managed the infrastructure for applications that served more than 26 million simultaneous users. The big takeaway from that is Rob knows IT. He knows how to build robust, scalable systems. Also joining us today, we have Kevin Brandt. Kevin started out as a Costpoint user and has over 8 years experience with Deltek products. He's been involved with over 75 successful implementations of Deltek products. Before I turn it over to Kevin, I'd like to do a quick little poll so we can get a little more information about you. When do you plan to start your upgrade to Costpoint 7? Now, if you're someone who is not on Costpoint 6, and you're not, please, maybe just skip this one. You'll get the next poll question. But for those of you who are on Costpoint 6, Service Pack 2, when do you plan to start your upgrade? Give you a few more seconds to, the results are coming in, which we'll share with you momentarily. Going to close the poll. 3 to 6 months seems to be some of you. But a good majority of you within 6 to 12 months. Well, regardless of when you're planning, hopefully learning some of the benefits and value that Costpoint 7 provides will encourage you to accelerate your plans a bit today. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kevin Brandt.
Thank you, Brian. So Brian told you a little bit about my background. I was originally a user of Costpoint and time collection and other Deltek products. So I'll be talking to you a little bit from that perspective, from a user perspective, and also from the perspective of someone that's heard customer pain points day in and day out over the last 7 years in my consulting role. So with that said, let's talk just briefly about NeoSystems' overall experience with Costpoint. So amongst our consulting team, we have over many, many years, we have delivered hundreds of successful Costpoint implementations. So we've been using it for many years and many different instances with many different clients and many of you on the phone today. So And from an end user perspective, Brian talked a little bit about our management accounting services group. So we are actually actively using it within NeoSystems Costpoint on a day-to-day basis as basically a client. We're working for clients, doing their accounting functions using Costpoint. So we're using it on a day-to-day basis, implementing it on a day-to-day basis, so using Costpoint very heavily. From a Costpoint 7 specific perspective, we started in the Costpoint 7 beta program in Q2 of 2010. So we've been using Costpoint 7 in-house for about 2 years now. So within that time frame, we've done extensive technical and functional testing of Costpoint 7, up to and including installations and upgrades. So we wanted to take a little bit of time today to share with you some of our experiences with Costpoint 7 over the last couple of years. So the day we've all been waiting for is here. I know I was thrilled. I'm sure all of you are too. Costpoint 7 is here and generally available. So came out in limited release in December of last year, and generally available just a couple months ago in April of this year. So let's talk a little bit about some of the new functionality of Costpoint 7, some of the promises of Costpoint 7. This isn't going to be a presentation that's focused on all of the what's new in Costpoint 7 message, but obviously the new items and components of Costpoint 7, the new features and functionality are pieces of your decision-making process when thinking about your timeline of when you're going to upgrade. So, and just want to mention, there are many, many enhancements across all of the modules. I'm just going to hit the high points here, but we actually do have training, which we'll talk about later in the presentation, that goes through all of that in gross detail. So first of all, the new cash receipts preprocessor. So for all you folks involved in that cash applications process out there, Costpoint 7 now promises the ability to automatically upload those Notch.r EDI files, so to get that cash applied in a quick and efficient manner. Next, something we've been waiting for, and we've been waiting for since I was a user, new positive pay features. So now, with these new features, the checks, the electronic formats, the checks actually meet the positive pay requirements of major banking institutions. So that will accelerate and enhance the process and the control around positive pay and making sure that those checks are in line with what's been actually produced from your system. One report that's quite nice, and I've been looking for this for a while, and I know many of you have too, is a status and open billing detail report. So looking at all those unbilled transactions out there in open billing detail gives you a nice, concise status of where those sit, whether they're written off, on hold, or pending to be billed. So a very nice report that I'm sure you all will get a lot of use out of. From a wide area workflow perspective, some enhanced capabilities there. Now with Costpoint 7, so all those acronym bills are now automatically integrated with wide area workflow. So that's a very nice new feature. Also, CLIN level mapping to your project. So you can map all that CLIN information to your project IDs and have that show up as part of your wide area workflow billing. So very nice feature there. For all you types out there that have struggled across the years to update that leave liability, Costpoint now has the capability to automatically update that leave liability based on any pay changes that you've had throughout the year. So it's a very nice new feature. Takes out that manual journal entry. So I know I would have liked to have had that, and now it's here. So that's great. For all you payroll types out there, something I've heard as a pain point across the years is the inability to do that multi-state tax calculation. Now it's here in Costpoint 7. We'll do both residency state and work state tax calculations. So a very nice new feature on the payroll side of Costpoint 7. A few more things here. From a security standpoint, you can get a little more granular now with your control over your users down to the result set level. So when those result sets come up, you can manage that to the users have read, update, insert, or delete access or rights to those result sets. So that's a very nice new control feature. and gives you a little more flexibility on what users can do from a result set perspective. Here's a big one, something that's bothered all of us over the years, the inability to access those single user functions with multiple users. Those days are gone in Costpoint 7. I can hear the clapping out there already. So via submitting of batch jobs to job queues, you can go ahead and get multiple users in there, run the process simultaneously, and those things will run as they in sequence as they appear in the queue. So very nice new feature. No more watching your screen blank out, wondering when the process is going to end and not being able to be efficient in Costpoint otherwise. The process will run in the background, and you can go ahead and continue on your day-to-day activities in Costpoint. So that's great. New feature in Costpoint 7, content management integration. So another pain point out there, that integration with a document management solution. So with Costpoint 7, you can now integrate with content management systems and tie things together, such as a vendor invoice to a voucher record within Costpoint. So very nice new feature, very nice new functionality. Will satisfy some of those document management needs. From a user experience perspective, just in general, we've all been waiting for the day when we could print all those reports straight to Excel or another type of document. Well, that day is here. You can now print all reports to Excel, get those down there, manipulate them how you want to manipulate them. So I know we're all very thankful that that's here, and we can start getting those reports into Excel or other formats. Emailing reports. So we may have wanted the capability in the past to take a report as it's run in Costpoint and either email it to another internal resource or somebody external to your organization. So now you can do that very quickly and easily via Costpoint. So that's very nice. Last but not least here, when you get a table result set, and I'll talk a little bit about table versus form view here in a minute, but when you get a table result set, you can actually copy and paste from that result set out to Excel. So if you get bring up all your project information, just do a query on project, all your project information could show up in a table result set, and you can actually copy and paste all those rows straight out to Excel. So that's very nice. So let's talk a little bit about navigation, some of the new items there. And I'm actually going to take you into Costpoint here momentarily and go through some of these in a little more detail, but I want to just quickly run through them on this slide. So quickly, from a menu redesign perspective, there's now a 4-tier drill down versus the 3-tier that was there in Costpoint 6. So same type of look and feel, which you'll see, but you have the domain module, the application group, and the application. So new 4-tier drill down. The breadcrumb navigation, which I'll show you as well, you actually can see where you've navigated to within Costpoint through the 4-tier drill down at the top of your screen when you're in an entry or processing screen. So that's very nice. You have very easy access to any menu item. So any menu item out there, any application out there, via now an application search or an open applications menu. So the application search, again, which I'll show you, you quickly type in a keyword and it will send you straight to any application that meets that keyword. Or the open applications menu, which now instead of having all those open windows at the bottom of your screen, you'll now see all the open applications you have in Costpoint very easily in this open applications menu. Also, based on your security, now the menu items that you have access to will be all you see when you enter Costpoint. So within Costpoint 7, your security setup will limit the available menu items to you, so that will ease your navigation throughout Costpoint. The preprocessors used to be in that others system administration area. Now the key ones are available on the main and sub menus. So the JE preprocessor now available in that general ledger area versus going into that system administration area. So very nice. The My menu did exist in Costpoint 6, of course, but now Deltek's made it a bit easier to use in Costpoint 7. There's an easy-to-locate star icon, which I will show you momentarily, that you can actually pull down the menu right at the top left-hand corner of your screen. And you can also add items to your My Menu quickly and easily, either via your administrator, or you can quickly customize them yourself. So that's very nice. From a screen level perspective, you can now toggle, as I said, between table and form view to analyze result sets, which I'll show you in momentarily. Also, when you drag and drop your table order, well, now that's customizable by user. So instead of having a global setting of what can be of the table order on any data entry screen, now you can customize it to your own liking and how you like to enter the data. Last but not least here, something I've heard from nearly every person I've encountered over the years related to Costpoint. Why can't I get this screen to be any bigger? You click that maximize icon, you just get more blank space. Well, now, and as you'll see momentarily as well, there are larger entry screens. So finally here, put away that magnifying glass, put away those binoculars. You can see the whole screen very clearly. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and show you a little bit of the product. Okay. So real quickly here, starting out with the menu items. So first we have the global menu and the global toolbar. So up here in the global menu, the menu options are basically the same as you had in Costpoint 6. However, when you open them, there are some more functions in here, and Deltek has been very nice and as part of these functions, map them to those hotkeys. So if you're a hotkey person, like to use those hotkeys, now you can go through here and see what the hotkeys are for all these functions and use those on a day-to-day basis. So that's very nice. The icon. So all these icons in the global toolbar are now very Windows-like. So that's very nice, very visible and easy to use. So your save continue, refresh, process, execute, all these print functions. So again, very nice and easy to use. Down to your record level. So here's a sample record, a journal entry processing screen, or a journal entry entry screen. So now you have your record level toolbar, which is quite intuitive. You used to have to do these things up at the top of the screen in Costpoint 6. Now it's right on your record. Create a new record, copy your record, delete, scroll through your records, do table or form toggle, which I talked about. So right here, I can quickly do that. Table, form, and then query. So all these items right up the top of your screen, very easy to access and use. Next, the breadcrumb navigation. So up here, you can see what I referred to in the previous slide, how you've kind of scrolled through the menu and got from accounting all the way down to manage journal entries. So a nice new feature that shows you where you started from and where you are in the navigation. Over here on the side, you have your screen configuration. Scan that really quickly. So within your screen configuration, you can do three things. First, you can modify that top-level toolbar and the icons that are visible there, kind of like you can in Windows. And so you can limit it to the icons you're using on a day-to-day basis. That's very nice. Also, from a data entry point of view, here's where you actually save your current application layout. So when you drag and drop all those columns, you go ahead and just save it here, and then it's specific to you as the user. You can also very quickly and easily manage your My Menu here. So a nice new feature, that screen configuration. One icon over here is your select company. So all you multi-company types out there, a quick and easy way to toggle through companies. And finally, the log out here replaces that kind of ambiguous open and closed door that was in Costpoint 6. So this icon will make a lot more sense to all you web types out there. So that's very nice. So let's go ahead and toggle back to the menu. So here's the main menu. It looks very similar to what you saw in Costpoint 6. So something I like a lot. That it's quite intuitive to scroll through because it has the same look and feel as 6. So let's go through what all these things are. First of all, the domain over here. These nice new big icons. Basically the same menu, but nice new big icons. Next, the module. So again, see pretty much the same modules you saw in Costpoint 6. They've been reordered slightly to make a little more sense of how you might be using the modules within the domain. And then the application group and the application. So as you scroll through here, you get down to the actual application. These have also been reordered slightly. In Costpoint 6, they started with controls. Now you're getting down to controls at the bottom, and actually using the functions you use more often have been pushed to the top. So it's a bit more intuitive. So when you're using these things on a day-to-day basis, they're right at the top of the menu. So that's quite nice. A few other things here. Your My Menu, which I discussed. So as you click through that, you can actually set top-level items. So you can collapse and expand your My Menu and the applications that are within your My Menu. So that's very nice. And again, you set those up through your screen configuration area most easily. Then you have your open applications. So as I said, this replaces all those open windows at the bottom of your screen and shows you all the applications you have open at any given time. Within the screen, you can close any one of these or close them all. So a lot of nice functionality within this open applications menu. Finally, the application search. So I'm just going to quickly type in, and you see I'm in that little search box there. Quickly type in accounts payable, if I can type correctly. So you see quickly and easily I can go to manage AP vouchers, and voila, I'm there. So some very nice new features, and I'm really excited about Costpoint 7 and the ease of use, and I think you will be too. So now I'm going to turn it to Rob Wilson to go through some of the nice new technical aspects of Costpoint 7. So Rob?
Thank you, Kevin. Kevin just showed us some really interesting and new functional areas of the new that are going to be available, that are available in Costpoint 7. So I'm going to cover some of those technical changes. First, as you probably noticed, the application wasn't the client-server type application that we saw with Costpoint 6, but is instead a web-based application. And I'll show you a little more in a drawing here in a couple of minutes, because that kind of really helps demonstrate the changes between Costpoint 6 and Costpoint 7. It runs in a Java engine. If you're already using time and expense, the Deltek time and expense application, then you're already familiar with it. On the technical side, the main application engine for Costpoint 7 is WebLogic, the Java engine that time and expense uses. A different release of that, of course, but the same product. Costpoint 7 is a multi-tier application, which is actually really great from an IT point of view, because now we'll be able to scale some of these components that we could not scale before. So the presentation layer out on the PCs, there's a web application that does some of the security, SSL decryption, encryption. There's a separate reporting engine. The application server is separate, so we can scale that up and down depending on how much availability or how much capacity we need. And then there's the database on the back end. And again, I'll cover that a little more in the drawing here in a second. So yeah, so actually this whole architecture really increases the scalability, not just the reporting server, but the reports part of this now isn't relying on the power of the PC that you're running Costpoint on. It's now moving that computing power into the server. And reports, you'll notice right away the reporting, the speed of performance of reporting is greatly increased in Costpoint 7. And then for those of you who are using Costpoint in a remote access scenario, using either Citrix server or a terminal server, those components are no longer required. Since this is a web-based application, you use a web browser on the PC to connect to the infrastructure over the internet or over, still you can do it over VPNs, or you can do it over, or just internal to your operation. So again, instead of relying on the PC, you're going to see better performance because of the work that's being transitioned over into the server farms, into the servers that are running the application. And processing, that processing is done in the app server. It's still done in the database, similar to how Costpoint 6 works, but there's also a job server, or what used to be called process server in Costpoint 6. And that's actually key to how some of the applications that would not let you be in the same screen at the same time. I think Kevin's going to cover this in a second, or a few minutes here. The job server is part of that solution. So now you'll be able to actually go in and submit your job, where in the past you might get a message saying that so-and-so is already in the screen. You can't be, those kinds of things. The third bullet here, the better integration capability, is kind of, for me, at least from the technical point of view, is kind of even one of the most exciting parts of what Costpoint 7 is bringing us. We're no longer limited to just what the preprocessors can do, or what some of the functions were web service enabled in Costpoint 6 Web, but now everything is enabled. Everything has the ability to be interfaced with a web service. So all those functions and all those fields that you can see on the screen, those can be imported or exported using a technical backend, which actually checks the business logic and checks the data. Where in the past, if we were trying to inject those things into the database by hand, we really had to do all that work ourselves and make sure that that all that data was correct. Well, now the web service interface will allow us to do that. Not only import data, but also make that available for export as well. So if we're doing interfaces to payroll providers or benefit providers, maybe you're sending data to your parent if you're a subsidiary of some kind, or maybe you're feeding data into a data warehouse. The web services interfaces are going to make all of those things so much cleaner than what we had in the past. So just real quick, on the drawing side, for the people who like to see things graphically, let's review what Costpoint 6 looks like real quick. So on the top row there, that's kind of, if you were an inside user, you had a PC or a laptop, and you connected over to the database, and the application was actually running on your PC or on your laptop. The work was done mostly at the PC, but then certainly back in the database as well. So you were kind of limited in that things could only happen as fast as your PC or your database or your connection to those things could be. Maybe you were using Costpoint 6 from the outside world, again in the client-server scenario, and you were going through some other transport, like I mentioned earlier, Citrix, or maybe you're running it over a terminal server. To contrast that, Costpoint 7, as you can see, there's a whole lot more to it. Starting at the top here, we're still using a PC or a laptop, but it's not actually being loaded with a client. The IT staff doesn't have to run out and install Costpoint or the fixes or the hot fixes out on the PCs or the workstations. Everything is now done through a web browser. So it is a Windows-only solution, and it is Internet Explorer 8 or 9 compatible. So those are the two restrictions on what you can do with the client. But really, not a lot of the work is being done. It's just the user interface that's being done here at the PC now. The web tier is providing that SSL encryption and decryption. The application tier here is the real workhorse of Costpoint 7. So it's the WebLogic server. It runs here. The application runs here instead of the PC. and certainly some of the business logic is here, as well as back in the database. This is where the scalability of Costpoint 7 happens here, and then in the reporting tier, where you can add additional services for higher availability. You can add additional servers for higher availability or for scalability. So if we need more throughput in the application, we can add more processing power here to get to scale the performance. And in the reporting side, this is Actuate, again, another product that folks are probably familiar with from the Costpoint 6, but also in the time and expense application using Actuate. These both can be clustered in such a way that we can scale and create higher availability solutions. And then, of course, the database. The back end hasn't changed that much, except you might notice that everything to the right of the user interface here is requiring a 64-bit operating system, 64-bit applications. So back in limited availability, Costpoint 7 did support 32-bit. But when the product went generally available, only the 64-bit machines, operating systems, and databases were officially supported. So what does that mean to most of us in IT? We probably already understand. For a lot of us, that means our whole infrastructure has to change. So if we don't have if the servers aren't more than a couple years old, or if we haven't been, and it doesn't make sense to keep your database up to the latest and greatest necessarily. So a lot of the technology that we're currently running isn't necessarily technology that's going to support Costpoint 7. So this isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, the mainstream support for like Windows 2003 servers, probably the most popular 32-bit server OS that's running out there, and still, it's a great little workhorse. But Microsoft ended mainstream support for that in July of 2010. So the fact that we're having to upgrade and move forward in the technologies is actually a good thing. This will get us faster running, better running, able to be supported, more secure infrastructure for running Costpoint 7. Costpoint 6 to Costpoint 7 upgrade is a big deal. It's not going to be an overnight kind of operation. You're going to want to test it. Kevin's going to talk about the changes in the security model. As you saw from his presentation, that the user interface does change. Knowing how to navigate and how that's going to change your job, the job of your users, that training is going to have to be done on that new UI. Possibly, you're going to want to be changing some of these interfaces to move from the preprocessors to some of the new web service technology. Maybe not, but and you may want to do some of this new functionality. So for all those reasons, you're definitely not going to want to make this an overnight change in operation. And the hardware that you're currently running probably doesn't support it anyway. So you're going to need to support CP6 and CP7 side by side for some period of time through your test cycle. So a brief commercial here for moving Costpoint 7 to the cloud. It's actually probably a great opportunity. So unless your company is flush with capital dollars and wants to go out and buy a bunch of new hardware and software for that database machine and operating systems to run it, there's actually a business case to be made for moving to the cloud and to be much more cost-effective. Just a quick little table there showing kind of some of the relative costs. I provided a virtual machine in-house option if you were inclined to go with virtual machines, although Deltek doesn't officially support running the application in virtual machines. We've been doing it from the very beginning of Costpoint, for that matter, Costpoint 5 or 6 or 7, but certainly from our interactions with Costpoint 7, we've never not run it in a virtual environment. And if you follow the vendor recommendation, the vendor being Deltek, then you're going to be buying individual servers to run each of these applications. So just to think back for a second, and if you want to make sure that it's available and performs well, you'll need at least 2 app servers, you'll need at least 2 reporting servers. Of course, you need your database, which you have to upgrade to 64-bit, buy a new machine. To do the SSL security, you need at least 1 of your web interface machines. So anyway, and then that's one environment. If I need a test environment, or if I want an UAT environment, or I want a training environment, all those things would be additional. So Anyway, that's kind of the high-level technical overview for Costpoint 7 and some of the changes from 6. Brian here afterwards is going to give us a little information on a blog that we've started, and we're going to have a fairly high content on the technical side in the blog. Certainly functional will be represented as well. So as we move through time here, as Costpoint 7 rolls out, we're going to be posting what we learn so that everyone in the community here can keep up with Costpoint 7, at least certainly from the technical, and Kevin on the functional side. So let me transition back to Kevin and resume so that he can review some of the functional items to look out for with Costpoint 7.
Great, Rob. Thanks. So real quickly, so this was a little bit of a marketing thing. I blame my marketing folks for this word peril, but I don't necessarily think these things are perils of Costpoint 7, but just things that we need to keep our eye on as we get ready for our upgrade. So some required post-upgrade updates. So first of all, those saved parameters. So those items, the parameters you saved to quickly run reports or processes, those parameters will not be coming over as part of your upgrade into Costpoint 7. So you need to go through Costpoint 6, identify those parameters, do screen captures where necessary, and then get ready to re-enter those in Costpoint 7. So those saved parameters, of course, were part of those batch processes you set up in Process Server, which is, as Rob mentioned, is now called Job Server. So obviously, if you have to re-enter the parameters, you have to set the processes up again in Job Server. It's a one-time reset, but nonetheless something you have to take care of when you get in there. But it will also give you the opportunity to assess Job Server and determine if you want to actually activate any other batch processes within that environment. Your screen customization. So I showed you a little bit of that earlier, as far as that those things can be customized to the individual user. So obviously, with that additional flexibility, which is a great thing, those things will not come over with your upgrade and will need to be reevaluated and reconfigured. But again, not necessarily a bad thing, as it's providing you much more flexibility with that item in Costpoint 7. Security, we talked a little bit about this earlier. User security will migrate. However, I showed you it's more robust in Costpoint 7, which is a great thing. But because of that, you'll need to carefully document what you had in 6, go review it in 7, and reevaluate it to determine how you're going to take advantage of the additional capabilities from a security perspective in Costpoint 7. So on to a little bit about the support lifecycle of Costpoint. This screenshot you're looking at here is directly from the Deltek website and shows you where we're at related to the different releases of Costpoint in the product lifecycle. So looking at the table from the left-hand side, so first you have the Costpoint release listed, then when it came out in GA, then when active or maintenance support was retired on the product, when the most recent service pack was retired, or the anticipated date that it will be retired, and what current phase it's in. So you can see there, Costpoint 7 is the active release. Costpoint 6.1 is in maintenance. You can see that the maintenance support, as the estimated maintenance support retire date, is October of 2013 right now. That date is subject to change, but obviously something we need to keep our eye on. So with that said, let's talk a little bit more about what those different phases mean. So active, maintenance, and sustaining support. So active support. So active, obviously, a period where Deltek is actively developing the next version. During this phase, you'll have availability to all those hot fixes, service packs, and regulatory updates. You'll be able to submit all those enhancement requests for the next release. Active support for Costpoint 7 actually began when it came out in GA in April. So Costpoint 7 is in active support. Maintenance support. So this is where Costpoint 6.1 Service Pack 2 is, which most of you are on currently. So you'll continue to receive hot fixes for any Step 1 issue and all those tax, legal, and regulatory updates. So at the end of the year, you payroll types will still get all of your updates so you can continue to do payroll. This began actually in April when Costpoint 7 came out in GA. It lasts for about 12 to 18 months. So if you remember that date out there of October 2013, that's kind of at the end of that range of the 12 to 18 months of when Costpoint 6.1 Service Pack 2 will go from maintenance support to sustaining support. Defining sustaining support. So when Costpoint 6.1 Service Pack 2 gets here, estimated October of 2013, you'll continue to have access to all fixes and service packs that have existed. However, there will be no more enhancements released, no hot fixes, no service packs, and all those regulatory updates will cease. So obviously a date to keep in mind. It looks like from our poll earlier, you all kind of know what sustaining support means and are planning on getting upgraded to Costpoint 7 within the next year. So that's great to hear. So when you get that timeline established and when you want to, and you know you want to upgrade, how can you reduce your risk? So I'll give you a couple of pointers on how you can help reduce your upgrade risk. So first, I mentioned some of the things you need to look for when you're upgrading. So gather that documentation from Costpoint 6. Something I did mention, those control screens. A lot of you probably have those documented from when you designed your system, but nonetheless, a good time to take screenshots again, refresh those, so when you get into Costpoint 7, you can make sure those control screens have stayed consistent. The parameters, batch processes, and entry screen configurations, of course, go and document those so you're ready to re-implement those in Costpoint 7. Also, we talked about security. Get that documented. Make sure you're ready to review what's in Costpoint 7 and then enhance that security based on Costpoint 7's new capabilities. Next, perform that infrastructure readiness review. So Rob went through what you'll need from an infrastructure perspective related to your Costpoint 7 environment. So go look at what you have, determine what you need to procure, and identify what the timeline is will be for that. Next, provide user training. So it's important, obviously, to train your users on Costpoint 7 capabilities and navigation. So you need to do that, obviously, before you start your testing process. So get that training scheduled. Next, configure your Costpoint 7 test environment and obviously perform the upgrade. So get that environment ready for use and testing. Along those lines, obviously, you have to create a test plan. So 4 elements of that test plan. So first, you're going to want to functionally test all of your existing processes. So all the processes you're using currently in Costpoint 6, you want to plan to functionally test all of those in Costpoint 7. Next, integrated testing. So you want to do end-to-end testing and include in that any of those ancillary products you're using and plugging into Costpoint, up to and including time, expense, and ESS, Costpoint CRM, reporting, all those items. So think end-to-end. Next, do that regression testing. So make sure you're comparing Costpoint 7 results to historical or parallel even Costpoint 6 results. So make sure you're doing that regression testing. Make sure the end result is consistent with what you're seeing in Costpoint 6. Finally, once you assess the new functionality that's in Costpoint 7 and found items that you want to take advantage of immediately, make sure you add steps into that test plan to test that new functionality, both functionally and in an integrated way. So how can we help you with that? How can NeoSystems help you? So Rob mentioned this briefly in his presentation. We can get you a Costpoint 7 ready environment in our cloud, and we have one of two approaches here. Obviously, we can bring it in and set you up a testing environment, so you can, as you're procuring your infrastructure internally, have a Costpoint 7 environment to work in and use to start getting a head start on that testing that you need to perform before production. Also, obviously, if you're happy with that process, as Rob said, you can move in, your production environment into the cloud as well. Obviously, we're more than happy to come out and support you in creating your test environment on site and your production environment on site. So we're flexible and can do it however best suits you. Next, we can help you with that infrastructure readiness review. So we can help come in and with Rob's knowledge, Rob and his team's knowledge, assess what you currently have from an infrastructure perspective, and then give you some guidelines on what you need to procure to get your environment up and ready for Costpoint 7. From an upgrade support perspective, our consulting team can come help you first assess what you're currently doing in Costpoint 6 and share with you the new functionality of Costpoint 7 and kind of get you familiar with what you may want to use or enhance when you come to Costpoint 7. Next, help you review that security. So we're in tune with the changes that have occurred within Costpoint 7 and can help you do a thorough analysis of your security and really take advantage of all the new control features that are there in Costpoint 7. And we can even help you with that nitty-gritty work, capturing and updating all those saved parameters, the screen configurations, all that stuff. So we can do all that from an upgrade support perspective. Next, I just talked about testing and what you'll need in that test plan. We can provide you a best practice test plan and then support that test, of course. So make sure you get through that testing effectively and efficiently and are ready to move to production. Finally, end user training. So we've got several training options, which Brian's going to go through with you to help you get ready to migrate to your Costpoint 7 environment. So lots of excitement. Again, I'm excited about Costpoint 7, and I know you guys are too, and we're ready to help you. So with that, I'm gonna move it back to Brian to talk a little bit more about training and other items.
Yeah, I know we're all excited about Costpoint 7, and as you're getting ready to do your testing, we've designed a half-day course specifically for current Costpoint 6 users to help them better understand the navigation, the functionality, do a much deeper dive than what we did today, as well as it includes some hands-on exercises to ensure that your users really take home the knowledge. And we understand how travel budgets are these days, so we have the class in person in our office in Tysons, but we also offer the class online. And as part of attending the webinar today, we have a promotion code for you, so a 20% discount on the very low $245 per person price. And as Kevin talked about some of the items you need to consider. So we want to help you here at Neo. We want to help you find a safe path forward. We all want to upgrade. We know we need to upgrade. So what's that safe path? You can have a testing environment here at NeoSystems. This way it doesn't interfere with your current accounting and other operations. This also will help you avoid some schedule delays and learning curve delays. Just trying to figure out which hardware to purchase and install and configure. We've done all that. We have a ready-to-go Costpoint 7 environment, and that you can access immediately. Plus, you can avoid or defer anyway the capital expenditures for that new hardware and software. So that's why we see NeoSystems as your safe path forward. Before I open up to questions, I want to do a quick poll. We've talked a lot about the benefits, the promises, the value that Costpoint 7 will provide to your businesses. But which of these items are of greatest value to you? You can pick as many as you want, but we'd really like to get your insights into where you see the value of Costpoint 7. Interesting. It looks like we're getting a lot of interest in web access. Ooh, web access is really starting to pull up. Up. Better integration capability is starting to move up a little. Give you about 10 more seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Close the poll. Show the results. Web access, our clear winner with roughly 3/4 of you. But better integration. And having worked on some of those integration issues personally, I can tell you I understand that one quite a bit. And ease of use also plays a big part in that. Okay, at this point, we want to open it up to questions. And so let's get those. I know a lot of you have been entering them as we go along. And so we're going to pull that up. One question we got from many people are, will this presentation be available? And the answer to that is yes. We will make a recording of the presentation available to all of you who attended today. Second question seems to be pretty popular as well. I'd like to find a better way to word this, but I'll just read it as it was written on a few of these. Costpoint 7, how buggy is it? Rob, Kevin, do you want to field that question?
Oh, interesting question. And Rob will chime in as well. I can say with all honesty, I've been using the product for quite some time now, and I found it to be very user-friendly and actually not very buggy at all. I know there have been some minor issues reported, but very, very clean for such a major new release like this. So I've been pleasantly surprised. And, again, with all honesty, from a person that's been out there using Costpoint in its various forms for several years. So, Rob, if you can chime in there.
Yeah, certainly the extensive limited availability and the availability we had to the app well before that, there was a lot of opportunity to get a lot of those defects handled early on. So at least in the field so far, we haven't seen a showering of bugs and problems coming out. Certainly minor stuff, but nothing at this point that would stop us from wanting to migrate or put a new company up on Costpoint 7. So looking at the list of questions here,
a lot of questions.
There's certainly a lot of questions. So overall, we're going to take a bunch of these. There's a bunch of duplicates too. We'll certainly move them to the blog and try to answer them as well there. Sessions recorded.
Yes, and I see a few questions about the blog. We've kind of alluded to it, teased it, and I saved that for part of our next steps, but I will comment on that we have launched a blog for Costpoint 7, and I'll have the info for that up right after we finish up some more Q&A.
Right. So
what about travel? Has that been eliminated in Costpoint 7?
Yeah, if that rumor is true, there is no more travel module. Costpoint 7 does promise more effective integration with Deltek Expense, however. So that component has been upgraded. So that has basically replaced the travel module, and the travel module is very little used to this point anyway. So
the question there's a question about Chrome and Firefox and other alternative browsers. At this point, it's only Internet Explorer, and it's only version 8 and version 9. So there's a couple of people who asked, will it do IE9? Yeah, absolutely. IE9 is actually the primary supported platform. How many servers does it take to run? I kind of went through some of that in the presentation. You could certainly run the whole thing on one server. If you were a very small operation and it was just a test environment or something, you may want to separate certainly the database, so maybe 2 if it's the smallest of things. But in production, you're going to want at least 2 app servers, 2 reporting servers, at least probably 1 web front end, maybe 2 if you're doing external access. Regarding cloud, what type of infrastructure do we have in place? We do both SQL Server and Oracle, and redundant data centers are in Chicago and Ashburn here in Virginia. So Kevin, are there user-defined fields in Costpoint 7?
There absolutely are. The user-defined fields are still there.
Yeah.
They're actually part of the menu now in many of the screens instead of being a menu option in the menu. So yeah, they're.
And if I'm not mistaken, one of the great benefits of Costpoint 7 with the user-defined fields, you'll be better able to integrate those across to other systems.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just remembering when I used to do some work on Costpoint CRM to Costpoint. Okay. Any others you guys want to grab out, or do you want to take that?
So,
we're running up against the hour here.
Well, I would like to say all those other questions that are out there, we will get to and answer. No question will go unanswered. We'll put it on the blog. We'll email you. We'll call you directly. But we will get them answered.
Okay, absolutely, yes. And I mentioned the blog, and as follow-up, when you get your follow-up email to this, we will include this link. But if you want to jot it down now, we have launched the Costpoint 7 Center blog, where we will be have articles and discussions as we all explore Costpoint 7 together. And can't help but reiterate that the hosting environment is available now. We have training classes and future webinars. White papers will include things like the CIO's guide to upgrading to Costpoint 7, the CFO's guide to upgrading to Costpoint 7. And I don't want to leave without showing you a quick screen of the Costpoint Center blog. It is up and live today. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. And we look forward to following up with you and continuing this conversation, either in the cybersphere or in person. Thank you.